Jon Jones will finally make his return to the octagon and debut as a heavyweight against Francis Ngannou for the title, hopefully sooner rather than later. I think he wins that fight, given he survives those early rounds. And then I'd say he defends one more time against probably Cyril Gane or Curtis Blades. Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill will be fighting for the vacant title at the next pay-per-view. And that fight's very interesting. Can Glover use his grappling to win that fight? If he can't use his grappling, will he be able to withstand the power and the speed and the youth of Jamal Hill on the feet? I think Jamal Hill's boxing is very good out of both stances, southpaw and orthodox. But my prediction for the fight is that Jamal Hill will get the W. And then Jamal Hill's first title defense will be against Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed probably deserved to win the Yan fight, but it was not an easy fight at all. I think if he goes up against Jamal Hill, I think Ankalaev will get it done. Obviously, Adesanya and Pereira have to do the rematch, and that fight's going to be very interesting, but I am slightly leaning Pereira. Pereira's power and ability to find that shot through 5 rounds, I think is just way too dangerous for Israel Adesanya to survive. And if Pereira defeats Adesanya again, will he want to stay at 85? Will he want to move up to 205 to avenge a loss that Glover might take? And if Glover retires, Pereira's a big dude, maybe he moves up, maybe Pereira just retires. He's been fighting forever. But I think either way, Khamzat fights a top middleweight contender. He wins that, and then he gets a shot at the title nearing the end of the year against whoever is there to fight him for it. If it's Pereira with the belt, or maybe it's a vacant title against Adesanya or Whitaker, I don't know, but either way, I think Khamzat will move up to 85 and he'll get that belt. And then we have the welterweight division, and I'm going with Leon Edwards. Now that may surprise some of you, but I think I'm going to favor Leon in the rematch against Usman. Of course, Usman was winning against Leon, and Leon just got lucky. But I think the mental effect that might have on Usman will be huge. Usman's getting older, he's more injury prone of late. I think he might not even fight in March because his hand or something, he might be getting another hand surgery. I think with all of that combined, Leon will find a way to get it done. He had a great first round against Kamaru. I think he'll come in with a better game plan. Whether he defends it or not, I'm not sure. But if he does defend it later in the year, I could see him fighting a Colby Covington. Yeah, that's really it, because I don't know if Khamzat's going to fight at 170 again. I'm just not sure. Colby will just sit at the top of the division. But I think Leon will retain his title this year. This one was by far the easiest for me. I went Islam Makhachev. I'm sure that's a popular pick. I think Islam will win against Alex Volkanovski in February. I think Islam does fight 3 times this year. I think he fights in February, then middle of the year, then closer to the end of the year, and he wins all 3 of them, no matter who he fights. So there is a interim title fight happening on the same night that Volkanovski tries to achieve double champ status. I will slightly lean Yair. Obviously, Josh Emmett has that equalizer. If he throws one of those overhand rights as Yair crowds with a kick and it lands perfectly, that could be big issues for Yair Rodriguez. But overall, I think Yair is the more well-rounded, better striker, and I think he'll win that fight. Given Volkanovski loses, which I do think will happen, he'll probably come back down to featherweight and he'll defend against Yair Rodriguez, which I do favor him pretty heavily in. Then after beating Yair, I would say he probably has one more in him, maybe not, but if he does, it'll be against Arnold Allen, maybe even Topuria. If Topuria gets a let's say Topuria gets a Max Holloway fight and then you slide him in there, things can happen. But either way, I think Volkanovski remains the featherweight champion at the end of the year. And then for bantamweight is also in a weird spot, but at the end of the year I have Henry Cejudo coming out as the champion. I say it's in a weird spot because they're trying to get a title fight booked, but there's so many contenders, and with Cejudo coming back, that's also kind of throwing a wrench into it. So there's a lot of factors in this bantamweight division that will come into play when it comes to who gets the title fights. But what I think is going to happen, what I hope is going to happen kind of, is the Aljamain versus Cejudo fight. And I would lean slightly to Cejudo in that fight. It's an interesting one, but I think Cejudo is just a very special talent, and he always finds a way to win. And I think he'll come back rejuvenated. And I think he's just one of the smartest fighters that we've ever seen. And I think he'll come in with a terrific game plan for Aljo, and he'll get the job done. And then they'll probably give O'Malley the title shot, which would be a pretty big fight. If O'Malley sits out, I think they'll give the title shot to him, and Cejudo versus O'Malley be an interesting build-up to a fight, that's for sure. But if that fight does happen, I would lean Henry Cejudo with the wrestling, the pace, and just finding a way to win again. I just think he creates masterful game plans. His leg kicks will be effective in that fight. He'll just have to watch for stuff coming up the middle, super explosive and fast stuff from O'Malley to not get sparked. But if he doesn't get sparked, I could see Cejudo winning that fight and then ending the year as Bantamweight champion. And for the Flyweight division, this is another interesting division. Obviously, they have the fourth fight between Figueiredo and Moreno coming up. Interim champion Moreno and undisputed champion Figgy. I think by the end of the year, Figgy moves up, whether he wins this Moreno fight or not. I don't think he will win this Moreno fight. I think Moreno's got some good momentum going. And I think Figueiredo's just cutting way too much weight. And he's getting older, and that's going to affect him. So that's why I do think he'll move up to 35 at some point in the year. But in that first fight, pay-per-view in January, I think Moreno will get the job done. And then Moreno will probably defend one more time against a contender, and who I hope it is Alexandre Pantoja. And I've got an upset brewing. I think Pantoja will end the year as flyweight champion, and I think he beats Moreno. I don't know when. And maybe he defends it, but I think Pantoja will become the flyweight champion. Bold prediction. Women's bantamweight, I've got Amanda Nunes. I think Nunes' first defense will come somewhere in the middle of the year against Caitlin Vieira. Caitlin Vieira has a fight against Raquel Pennington, who has been on a winning streak. I think some of it up at featherweight, if I remember correctly, but I think Vieira will win that fight, and she will have beaten Holly Holm and Misha Tate and Rocky Pennington, 3 former Nunes opponents. So I think she'll get the title shot, but I think Nunes will win that fight. And then hopefully they make the trilogy fight between Nunes and Shevchenko, which I'm being hopeful and saying it will happen. And in that fight, I would slightly favor Nunes, both ladies getting a little older, but another situation where I think Nunes might just have her number, even though they had a very close second fight. And then for the women's flyweight division, this is going to be a very bold pick. This could be way off. I'm going to go with Tatiana Suarez. Now hear me out. I think Shevchenko will defend against Erin Blanchfield. I think Erin Blanchfield beats Tayla Santos in their fight, and then they will want to get her straight to a title shot because she's young, marketable. So Erin Blanchfield, Shevchenko, but I think Shevchenko gets that victory. And then when she moves up to the bantamweight division, I think Blanchfield will possibly compete for an interim title fight. Either way, there will be an interim title fight, and I think that by that time Suarez will have come back, fought somebody in the top 5 in the flyweight division, won, and then been up for a interim title in that flyweight division, whether it's Suarez versus Tayla Santos maybe, or Alexa Grasso, who she's already beaten. Yeah, I think Suarez wins the interim title and maybe has a fight against Shevchenko at the end of the year. I don't think so. I think Suarez will be the interim champion, and Shevchenko will still be the undisputed champion. For the strawweight division, I am going to stick with Weili Zhang. She looked extremely good in her last one against Carla Esparza. I think Weili's first title defense of the year will be against Rose Namajunas. This tends to happen to Rose. She'll just jump into title fights. This has been happening since like 2017. I don't think she's She had one non-title fight against Jessica Andrade. So maybe they'll make Rose fight a contender like Lemos? I'm not sure. But what I'm thinking is Rose has 2 wins over Weili. Maybe they just do a trilogy there. Let Weili settle that score. And I think she would. I think Weili would win that fight against Rose. And then Weili would defend maybe one more time against either an Amanda Lemos. Who else in that strawweight division? Yan Xiaonan in like China maybe. If Yan Xiaonan gets a big win over someone, I'm not sure. But either way, I will say that Zhang Weili remains the strawweight champion by the end of the year.